We must never overlook the fact that God's revelation to us took place in real space and time. The Bible story centers around hundreds of place names, cities, countries, mountains, valleys, rivers, seas, and other geographical features. And an understanding of the geography of the Bible will help us to understand better God's revelation itself. So, for example, Judges 20 and verse 1 refers to all the people of Israel from Dan to Beersheba. Now, remembering that this is before the division of the tribes in 931 BC, this is an expression meaning everyone in the whole country, because Dan is the most northerly city and Beersheba the most southerly. Similarly, in 1 Kings 12:29, we are told that Jeroboam, king of the rebellious northern kingdom, set up golden calves at Dan and at Bethel. So why did he choose those two places for his idolatrous calves? Well, Bethel was in the southern part of the land, on the border of Ephraim and Benjamin. Dan was, as we've seen, the most northerly Israelite city after the division of the tribes. In other words, the king chose those places because they marked the southern and northern extremities of his kingdom. Also, in former times, Dan had been a place resorted to by the faithful, and Bethel was a place whose name signified the house of God. Let's take a quick look at the geography of the Bible and familiarize ourselves with the places identified with it. The Bible story took place in the area of the world where Europe, Asia, and Africa converge. To the north of this region, there's an almost continuous belt of mountains stretching from the Atlantic Ocean to southeastern Asia, the Pyrenees, Alps, Balkans, Caucasus, Elburz, Hindu Kush, and Himalayan ranges. And these acted as a barrier to the cold winter winds and possible invasions from the north. To the south, there's a natural boundary consisting chiefly of desert, the Sahara, the Syrian, and the Arabian deserts. And this not only served as a barrier to invasion from the south, but with the northern mountainous barrier, held the people of the region within that area. As a result, this whole region became the cradle of civilization. The region between the mountains and the deserts may be identified as the Bible world. The central Old Testament characters lived principally in Palestine, but at certain times were in Mesopotamia or Egypt. And occasionally other peoples come into the story from Persia, South Arabia, Ethiopia, Asia Minor, and other areas. And running all the way from the Nile Valley in Egypt to Mesopotamia is a crescent-shaped strip of arable land referred to as the Fertile Crescent. This strip of land borders the Syrian desert, the Tigris-Euphrates river system in Mesopotamia, and the coastal lands of the Eastern Mediterranean. Each arm of the crescent is approximately 700 miles long. At its widest point, the strip is about 100 miles broad. The southwestern end of this crescent includes Palestine and stretches to the Nile Valley of Egypt. Not only was this strip of land extremely fertile, hence its name, the Fertile Crescent, but it acted as a land bridge connecting Europe, Asia, and Africa. Merchants, migrants, pilgrims, and armies traveled its roads. The Bible begins in the east with the area where Eden was and where the first post-flood population settled. Then the story moves to Canaan with Abraham and down to Egypt, where the people were in captivity for more than 400 years. The Old Testament also takes in Syria, Assyria, Babylon, which is present-day Iraq, and Persia, what we know today as Iran. The New Testament record begins in Canaan, where Jesus spent the whole of his earthly life, but by the end of the story, we've traveled through Syria, Asia Minor, which is present-day Turkey, right over into Europe, into Italy, Greece, and even Spain.